Story 1. I remember getting my Costco membership. It felt like unlocking adulthood, a promise of bulk savings and discovery. I was excited, proud to finally be part of the club. The red and white card felt powerful, a key to endless consumer possibility, a symbol of my new, savvy self, pure potential. My first trips were exhilarating. My cart overflowed with colossal toilet paper, industrial ketchup, frozen chicken. This was the dream, pure efficiency. I'd wander the vast aisles, marveling at the scale. Free samples were a bonus. I felt like a kid in a candy store for responsible adults. Each purchase felt like a victory, saving money, being prepared. My initial excitement for my membership was genuine, untainted then. First, harmless impulse buys, giant pretzels, paper towels. I'd laugh, Costco effect. But a strange compulsion started, a whisper telling me what I needed. It began subtly. I'd reach for unplanned things, feeling a slight tug. That six-pack of artisanal pickles, it seemed to say, you must have them. The whispers weren't audible yet, more like intrusive thoughts, strong urges, feeling like my own. A subtle pressure behind my eyes. I started buying duplicates, 2 mayonnaise jars, 3 olive oil bottles. My pantry became a monument to excess, a shrine to bulk. Friends joked about my addiction. I laughed along, but unease grew. These weren't my choices entirely, were they? Unsettling. Impulse buys became about acquisition. A feeling of incompleteness unless I bought something new, large. The craving grew. Whispers intensified from suggestions to demands. My shopping list was dictated by an unseen force guiding my cart. Items grew stranger, an antique globe, artisanal cheeses, obscure spices. My apartment filled with things I didn't want. I bought a vintage porcelain doll, its vacant eyes stared. I hated dolls, but the card pulsed, it was in my cart. Then the taxidermied owl, out of place. It sat on my bookshelf, glass eyes following me, a silent observer. My apartment became a museum of the unwanted, a testament to an alien will. Every corner held a peculiar object. I tried to resist. Walking past a demanded item brought crushing anxiety. I returned, the relief sickening. My bank account dwindled. Spending recklessly on useless things felt essential. The card fed on my financial distress. I avoided company. Explaining a life-sized cardboard medieval knight was impossible. Shame grew. The shame was immense, but compulsion stronger. My will eroded, replaced by the card's dictates. I was losing myself. The card itself felt different, colder. I swore its metallic sheen rippled or felt a faint vibration. It wasn't just plastic. I'd pull it out, it felt heavier, sentient. A subtle hum resonated. My fingers tingled, a cold, electric sensation. Whispers grew louder, clearer, no longer suggestion but command, echoing in my mind. Aisle 7, the drone. I'd be in frozen food, then electronics. Aisle 7, the drone. I'd turn, obeying without conscious thought. It dictated how to buy. Cash only, it demanded. No self-checkout. I felt like a puppet, manipulated. The card's sheen reflected my face, distorted, hollow eyes. A chilling premonition of my vacant future. I tried leaving it home, unbearable anxiety, suffocating panic. I drove back, trembling, retrieving it. Peace returned. The card was an entity, a parasitic extension, or I, an extension of it. My identity began to dissolve. Compulsion wasn't just buying, it demanded my time, focus. I skipped work, canceled plans, drawn to the aisles. My boss called, friends stopped inviting me. You've changed, Sarah worried. I couldn't explain. Weekends blurred into endless hours at Costco, not buying, just walking, listening. The card vibrated gently. Sleep was fragmented, haunted by towering shelves, endless products, and the malevolent, pulsing card. My apartment became my sanctuary of dread. I indulged its demands without judgment, the outside world irrelevant. I tried talking to Sarah, but words wouldn't come. A constriction, a pressure, the card blocked me. Isolation deepened. I was a ghost, haunting my own life, tethered only to the cold, demanding card. Then came true sacrifice, not money but personal. My antique watch, a family heirloom, felt like a burden. The card told me it had to go. Grandfather's watch passed down, a link to my past. The card hissed, "It holds you back, sever the ties." I resisted, but immense pressure, throbbing headache, impending doom. My hands shook listing it online. The watch sold, sickening relief, then profound emptiness. I severed a connection, the card purred. Other sacrifices followed, a cherished guitar, rare books. Each item gone, a piece of me chipped away. Memories of items faded, replaced by apathy. The card erased my history, making space for its narrative. I was lighter, unburdened but not well, stripped bare of self, ready for its ultimate demand. One night the card pulsed, glowing, whispers solidified into a cold, ancient voice. "Your connection," it hissed. "To the one who grounds you, sever it, prove your loyalty. Sarah, my sister, my last tether." The demand was horrifying. Cut off Sarah, erase her. The card wanted absolute allegiance, no anchors. I tried calling her to warn her. My phone wouldn't dial, static. The card blocked my reach. Profound sadness, a soul-deep ache, but compulsion remained. The card demanded. I, a hollow shell, obeyed. "I'll never be free." The card is in my wallet, a chilling presence. Sarah stopped calling. My apartment is dread. I'm a vessel now, waiting for the next demand, bound by the true cost. My life, identity, all consumed. How many others are ensnared? How many paid the true cost? Just another item in the store's endless inventory. Story 2. My weekly Costco pilgrimage was a sacred ritual. Every Tuesday, I, a leaner, navigated the aisles, a loyal member for decades. The familiar hum of refrigerators and the scent of rotisserie chicken were my comfort. My destination was always the dehydrated fruit section, specifically the colossal bags of mixed berries. There was something reassuring in such abundance, a promise of sustenance for weeks to come. This happened to me. I'd meticulously check the expiry dates, a habit born from years of careful budgeting. Then, with a satisfied nod, I'd hoist the heavy bag into my cart, a small victory in my predictable week. It was a simple pleasure. This particular Tuesday felt no different. The usual crowds, the usual samples, the usual efficient checkout. I packed my car, drove home, and began my post-Costco unpacking routine. It was all so mundane. The kitchen counter soon groaned under the weight of my bulk treasures. Cans of tuna, towering paper towel rolls, and of course, the massive bag of dehydrated fruit. I loved the order of it all. I reached for my trusty scissors, ready to snip open the heat-sealed plastic. The crinkle of the bag was a familiar sound, a prelude to portioning out my healthy snacks for the coming days. As the seal broke, a faint, earthy scent, unlike the usual sweet fruit aroma, wafted out. I wrinkled my nose, thinking perhaps it was just the plastic, but then my fingers brushed against something hard. Nestled amongst the dried cranberries and blueberries was a foreign object, not a stray twig or a piece of plastic. This was different. My heart gave a curious little flutter. I pulled it out. It was a small, crudely carved bone charm, roughly an inch long, smooth from age, yet sharp in places. It had primitive etchings, symbols I didn't recognize. How could this be in a factory-sealed bag? My first thought was a factory anomaly, a joke, or perhaps some child's toy dropped in. I tried to rationalize it, but a cold unease settled in my stomach. The charm felt ancient, out of place. I placed the bone on the counter, a stark contrast to the modern kitchen. Its presence felt heavy. I considered throwing it away, but something held me back. a strange curiosity, or was it something else? Later that evening, while watching television, I felt a peculiar sensation. A fleeting image, like a glitch in my vision, a vast, desolate landscape under a bruised sky. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. I blinked, attributing it to tiredness, but then a primal sense of hunger, not my own, gnawed at me, a deep, aching emptiness. It was unsettling, unlike any hunger I'd ever known. This was strange. I glanced towards the kitchen counter. The bone charm lay there, seemingly inert, yet I felt a faint thrumming. Was it my imagination, or was the relic somehow connected to these odd sensations? I tried to dismiss it. The visions became more frequent, more disorienting. Glimpses of parched earth, skeletal trees, and figures cloaked in rough hides. They were quick like snapshots, but vivid. My sleep grew restless. The hunger also intensified, a phantom ache that no meal could sate. It was a deep, ancestral craving, not for food, but for something more elemental, more terrifying. I started to feel afraid. I found myself drawn to the bone charm, picking it up, turning it over in my fingers. Each touch brought a new wave of images, a struggling ancient settlement, faces etched with desperation, praying to the barren land. Compelled, I began researching the land where my Costco stood. Our town history was well documented, but I delved deeper into forgotten archives, old maps, and obscure local legends. I needed answers. The internet was a rabbit hole of forgotten tales. I stumbled upon references to a pre-colonial settlement long vanished, their existence barely a footnote. Their struggle against the harsh land was palpable. Famine, the records whispered, a relentless, crushing hunger that decimated their crops and livestock. Desperate measures were hinted at, euphemisms veiled in archaic language. My stomach tightened with dread. One particular legend caught my eye. I cross-referenced fragmented stories, piecing together a chilling narrative. A forgotten tragedy of a community driven to unspeakable acts to survive, to appease something vast and hungry beneath the soil. The bone charm, I now understood, was not just a relic. It was a key, a conduit. Its primitive etchings matched symbols I saw in descriptions of ancient rituals, whispered in the darkest corners of local folklore. The feeding of the land was no metaphor. It was a literal, ritualistic offering, and the bone charm was a token, a pact binding the community to an entity that demanded sustenance. I felt a chill that transcended the room's temperature. One night, clutching the bone charm, a powerful vision overwhelmed me. It wasn't fleeting anymore, it was immersive, terrifyingly real. I was there, among them, feeling their desperation. I saw the full horror of the ancient ritual, not just offerings of grain, but something more, primal. The entity they appeased was not a god, but a void, an insatiable hunger rooted in the very earth. The land itself felt alive, a vast, patient predator. The Costco, my familiar, comforting Costco, was built directly upon this ancient, hungry ground. My blood ran cold. This was not a coincidence. The bone charm pulsed in my hand, a direct line to that ancient hunger. It wasn't just a relic, it was a receiver, and I was now tuned into its chilling frequency. I felt a profound sense of violation. The entity, dormant for centuries, had been reawakened. The constant flow of goods, the abundance within Costco's walls, was merely a modern form of the ancient feeding, a new, unwitting sacrifice. I tried to resist the entity's pull, the insatiable hunger that was now a part of me. I locked the bone charm away, tried to ignore the visions, but it was futile. The connection was made. The phantom hunger persisted, a constant, dull ache in my core. It wasn't my hunger, yet it consumed me. I felt like a vessel, a living echo of a forgotten pact. My weekly Costco trips continued, a grim parody of my former comfort. I was a silent, unwilling participant in this macabre ritual. Each purchase, each item felt like an offering. The familiarity of the aisles now felt menacing. The abundance, once comforting, now seemed obscene, a constant reminder of the insatiable maw beneath. I felt a profound sense of dread every time I entered. I'd watch other shoppers, oblivious, filling their carts, their faces alight with consumer joy. Did they feel it too? The faint tremor in the floor, the subtle chill in the air, or was it just me? The bone charm, though hidden, still whispered to me, not with words, but with a deep, resonating hum that vibrated in my bones. It was a constant reminder of my unwilling connection. I tried to tell my doctor about the visions, the hunger, the bone. He prescribed sleeping pills, suggested stress management. He didn't see the ancient horror lurking beneath suburbia. How could he? The echo of the land's past was inescapable. Every bulk purchase felt like a pact renewed, every scanner beep a tolling bell. I was trapped in a cycle of ancient hunger and modern commerce. I sometimes wonder if the entity recognizes me now, the one who found its forgotten token, the one who carries its echo within her. Does it see me as a willing participant or merely a conduit? The chill in the produce section felt colder, the hum of the freezers louder. Every shadow seemed to stretch and writhe, hinting at something ancient and vast stirring beneath the concrete. I started buying more compulsively, not for myself, but for for the hunger that gnawed at me, that wasn't mine, but demanded satisfaction. My cart overflowed with bulk goods. I couldn't stop. My home transformed. Boxes and bags filled every corner, a horde against an unseen famine. Yet the hunger remained, a bottomless pit. It was never enough. It would never be enough. I'll never forget the day I saw it in another shopper's cart. A small, crudely carved bone charm, identical to mine, nestled amongst a bag of organic kale. My blood ran cold. I wasn't alone. The shopper, a young man, was oblivious. Humming a tune, he pushed his cart towards the checkout. I wanted to scream to warn him, but the words caught in my throat. The hunger silenced me. The realization hit me like a physical blow. The bone charms were not unique. They were being distributed. New conduits, new unwilling participants. The entity was spreading its reach. The Costco, once a symbol of comfort, was now a feeding ground, and we, its loyal members, were unknowingly part of a much older, darker transaction. The abundance was a lure. I still go to Costco. I have to. The hunger won't let me stay away. It demands its tribute. I push my cart, a shadow among the oblivious, forever haunted by the echo of the land's past. Sometimes I catch a glimpse in the reflective surfaces of the freezers, a flicker of ancient eyes deep within my own. The entity watches through me, observes its new flock. The unsettling question remains: who or what is truly being fed, and how long until the ancient hunger, now reawakened and amplified by modern consumption, finally demands its ultimate, most terrible price? I am a leaner, a loyal Costco member, and I am afraid, not for myself, not anymore, but for us all, for the unsuspecting, for the land, for the hunger that grows with every bulk buy. The echo continues, and every Tuesday I return to Costco, to the altar of abundance, a silent, unwilling priestess to an ancient, insatiable God. This is my life now. This happened to me. Story 3. This happened to me. I was a Costco sample demonstrator, stuck on the desolate late shift. The fluorescent hum was my only companion until that night. It was just after closing, cleaning up, when I heard it for the first time. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper, like air escaping a balloon. No customers were around. I dismissed it as fatigue or the hum of the refrigerators. My mind playing tricks on me, I thought. The silence of the empty store was always unnerving. But it persisted, a low, constant murmur just beneath the threshold of understanding. It wasn't the store's ambient noise, it was different, more insistent. I started actively listening, straining my ears. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a frustrating, elusive hum that frayed my nerves. My fatigue deepened, making me more susceptible, more vulnerable. The store felt different, colder, like it was watching, waiting for me to acknowledge it. I wondered if I was finally losing it. Working alone, late at night, can play tricks on your mind, but this felt too real, too persistent to be imagination. The murmur gained a slight, almost human quality, like hushed voices just out of reach, struggling to form words. It was unnerving, yet compelling. Then one night during the afternoon rush, I heard it clearly, a whisper about a customer. He's cheating on his wife. I looked at the man, horrified. The whisper was so specific, so accurate. How could I know that? I'd never seen him before. My heart pounded, questioning what I was hearing. Another whisper came, targeting a woman haggling over a bulk item. She has hidden debts, so much debt. The malice in the voice was undeniable. The whispers revealed petty cruelties, small deceits. He stole that pen from the office. They hissed about a manager passing by. My paranoia grew swiftly. I started looking at everyone differently. Every smile seemed a mask, every interaction a lie. The store became a hive of secrets, all revealed to me. Then the whispers turned to the store itself. The old manager, he never left. A chill ran down my spine. I remembered the manager who vanished years ago. The store felt alive, a vast, breathing entity speaking directly to me. Its secrets were now mine, and the weight of them was crushing. The whispers intensified, a buzzing in my ears that never ceased. It was a constant, low thrum, like a hive of angry bees residing in my head. I noticed the samples themselves, the mini hot dogs, the pretzel bites, the tiny cups of soup. They felt strangely charged, almost warm to the touch. The voices seemed to emanate directly from the food. From the steam of the soup, the glaze of the pretzels, the samples were conduits. Give him the extra cheese, a whisper urged, sharp and clear. He deserves it. An elderly man approached, oblivious to the malevolent suggestion. There was an undeniable edge of malice in the suggestion, a sinister delight. It wasn't about generosity, it was about manipulation, control. I felt a strange compulsion to obey. My hand moved, almost on its own, adding more cheese. The old man smiled, unknowingly accepting a tainted gift. The sample seemed to vibrate slightly in my hand, a low hum resonating through the plastic tray. They pulsed with a dark, unseen energy. The entity's influence strengthened, a physical presence pressing in on me. It was no longer just whispers, it was a force controlling my actions. I felt a growing dread, realizing this wasn't just my mind, not just fatigue. Something ancient and evil lurked within the mundane walls of Costco. The whispers became a cacophony, a deafening roar in my head. 1,000 voices, all overlapping, all demanding, all malevolent. They focused on a specific, unsuspecting new employee, a young girl named Chloe. She was just starting her shift, bright and innocent. She saw, she knows, the voices hissed, a venomous chorus. What could Chloe have possibly seen or known? Make her stop, they demanded, growing louder, more insistent, a terrifying crescendo. The words hammered into my skull. My eyes darted to the sharp skewers used for the meat samples. They lay innocent on the tray, but the whispers imbued them with sinister purpose. The voices urged me, use it, end her silence. The command echoed, a terrifying imperative that seized my very being. My hand trembled, reaching for the skewer. It felt like an extension of the whispers, cold and sharp, a tool for their malevolent will. The samples on my station vibrated with malevolent glee. The mini hot dogs seemed to pulse, the pretzel bites hummed with dark anticipation. A terrifying act loomed, my mind clouded by the cacophony. Chloe was just a few feet away, humming innocently as she stalked shelves. The new employee smiled innocently, unaware of the horror unfolding within me. Her laughter, so pure, only fueled the whisper's rage. My fingers brushed the cold, sharp skewer. The entity's grip tightened, demanding obedience, demanding the ultimate sacrifice. Then a flicker, a desperate spark of my own will, fighting against the overwhelming control. I saw Chloe's face, her pure smile. With a guttural cry, a scream of pure defiance, I threw the skewer down. It clattered loudly, breaking the spell, shattering the whispers for a split second. The cacophony returned, but weaker, confused. I had resisted. I had narrowly stopped myself from committing an unspeakable act. Traumatized, I fled the store. I left everything behind, my uniform, my station, the samples. I just ran, never looking back. I never returned to Costco or any similar environment. The thought of those fluorescent lights, those endless aisles, fills me with dread. But in quiet moments late at night, I still hear them. Faint, insidious whispers just at the edge of hearing, just below understanding. They tell me mundane secrets, then dark ones. They try to coax me, manipulate me. I fight them every single day. The chilling question remains, who is working that sample station now? Who is standing there, offering mini hot dogs, listening? What dark truths are they hearing? What secrets are being whispered to them from the samples, from the very walls of Costco? I'll never forget that night, the samples, the whispers, the terrible command, and I pray no one else ever has to hear them. The echoes of "she saw, she knows" still haunt my dreams. It was a close call, a terrifying brush with pure evil. I often wonder about Chloe. Did she ever sense anything, or was I the only one cursed to hear the store's dark heart? The whispers were a part of the store, a malevolent entity feeding on secrets and fear, and I was just a conduit, a vessel. I live with the chilling knowledge that the horror continues. The samples are still offered, the secrets still whispered, the entity still waits. And sometimes when I pass a Costco, I swear I hear a familiar, insidious murmur, just calling my name, inviting me back. Story 4. I remember my first week at Costco. The sheer scale of the place was overwhelming, a dizzying array of products and bustling activity. Especially the back room. It wasn't just big, it was a labyrinth, an endless maze of towering shelves that seemed to touch the distant ceiling. Endless aisles of pallets stacked precariously high, stretched into the distance, loaded with more goods than I could ever imagine. The constant low hum of machinery, forklifts, pallet jacks filled the air, a mechanical symphony that was both monotonous and unsettling. It truly felt like a city unto itself, vast and impersonal. I was just Liam, a new stalker, trying to find my footing. Every day was a challenge. I learned the main routes, but the deeper sections remained a mystery, a place I tried to avoid. This happened to me during my first month, and I'll never forget that night. The memory still sends shivers down my spine. It was a particularly busy Saturday shift, the kind where the main store aisles were packed and the backroom was chaotic. I was sent to retrieve a specific item from a deep, less frequented section, something obscure for a special order. A specific brand of organic, gluten-free pet food, I recall, from aisle 73. It was tucked away, almost hidden. I took a wrong turn, a common mistake for new hires. I laughed it off initially, thinking I'd just retrace my steps. But the usual shortcuts I'd learned seemed to vanish. Every familiar landmark was gone, replaced by endless stacks. The layout felt subtly different, unsettlingly so, a rearrangement that couldn't possibly have happened so quickly. A feeling of dread began to creep in. This wasn't just being lost, this felt fundamentally wrong. Then the fluorescent lights began to flicker erratically, plunging sections of the aisle into momentary darkness, casting long, shifting shadows that danced around me, distorting pallets into monstrous, fleeting figures. The familiar sounds of forklifts and distant voices faded into an unnerving silence, swallowed by the vastness. Distant voices vanished completely. It was just me and the flickering lights, the oppressive quiet amplifying my unease. Replaced by a profound silence that pressed in on my eardrums, making me hyper-aware of my own breathing. Punctuated by strange, faint, almost inaudible whispers, they seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. A growing feeling of being watched from between the towering shelves settled over me, a predatory gaze. My heart started to pound against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat. Every shadow seemed to conceal something malevolent. I found myself in sections I'd never seen before, aisles that defied the known layout. This was beyond a wrong turn. A corridor stretched far longer than it should have, a tunnel of forgotten goods twisting into infinity. Lined with ancient, dust-covered pallets of forgotten goods, labels faded, boxes crumbling, untouched for decades. Items I'd never seen in the main store, some from a bygone era, others unidentifiable. What was this place? And then I saw it, a heavy, rusted industrial door marked "Maintenance, do not enter." It wasn't there minutes ago. My memory was clear, that door simply hadn't existed. Now it was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness visible. A cold draft, smelling faintly of damp concrete and something metallic, emanated from the door, raising goosebumps. The air grew colder, an unnatural chill that bit through my uniform, a pervasive, bone-deep cold. Then I heard a low, guttural hum that seemed to vibrate through the concrete floor, a resonant, unsettling thrumming. Not from any machinery, but from the very structure of the building. It felt like the warehouse was alive, its massive body resonating. The shelves themselves seemed to lean in, menacingly. The vertical lines of steel angled inward, trying to enclose me. The aisles narrowed, pressing in on me from all sides. The space was shrinking, the walls closing in. As if the store was breathing, a vast, predatory entity. I could feel its cold, stale breath on my neck. Panic seized me, a cold, crushing grip. This wasn't just a building, it was a trap, and I was the prey. I stumbled, trying desperately to retrace my steps, to find a way out, but every path was a dead end. But every turn led deeper into the labyrinth. It was a cruel deception, aisles shifting behind me. Then I heard them, heavy, dragging footsteps behind me, not human, a slow, deliberate scraping sound. They were getting closer, echoing eerily in the unnatural silence. Each thud was a hammer blow against my heart. I caught glimpses of dark, shifting shapes in my peripheral vision, fluid and indistinct, too unnatural to be shadows. Moving too fast and too low to the ground to be a person, they slithered and scuttled just beyond my gaze. It felt like the entire warehouse was closing in, hunting me. The cold became unbearable, a physical pain. The cold became unbearable, a deep, pervasive chill that seeped into my core, blurring my vision with tears. I could feel its unseen presence, a hungry gaze boring into my back, a palpable malevolence worse than death. I stumbled through a narrow gap between two colossal stacks of toilet paper, a desperate burst of adrenaline pushing me. Bursting out into a brightly lit main aisle, nearly colliding with a bewildered coworker. He looked at me like I'd seen a ghost. The backroom door slammed shut behind me with an unnatural force, a deafening boom that echoed through the store. I looked back, and through the small window, I swore I saw the shelves themselves pulsing, a deep red light glowing. I quit the next day. Even now, years later, a Costco sign sends a chill down my spine. I know what's in those backrooms, a vast, living entity that swallows the lost. I often wonder how many others have been consumed by the Costco backrooms labyrinth. Story 5. My name is Alex. For 2 years, the Costco food court after 11 p.m. was my lonely domain. I was the graveyard shift cleaner, the only sounds the hum of fridges and echoes of the day's consumer frenzy, or so I thought until the first time I saw him. It started subtly, a figure always in the same booth long after everyone else was gone. He never moved, never ate, just sat. I initially dismissed him as homeless or just resting. but his clothes were too neat, his stillness too profound. He became a fixture every night, same booth, same unnerving silence. I tried to ignore him, pushing my mop bucket past, focusing on the sticky floors, but his presence, like a cold spot, grew heavier each night. This happened to me. The unsettling regularity became a heavy weight. He was always there when I arrived, still there when I left. His vacant eyes seemed fixed on nothing, or perhaps on me. The silence he brought was oppressive, a vacuum in the bustling space. I started feeling watched, even on nights I swore the booth was empty. A shiver would run down my spine. I'd turn quickly, only to find the booth vacant, yet the feeling persisted. It was a phantom gaze, chilling me to the bone. Small, inexplicable things began happening. A chair subtly pulled out from a table I just cleaned. A napkin perfectly folded on an otherwise untouched surface. Details I knew weren't there moments before. My mind raced for explanations. The air around his usual spot grew noticeably colder, heavier. Not like a draft, but a palpable density that pressed in. It felt like walking into a freezer, but only in that specific area. I dreaded cleaning that section. His gaze, whenever I dared to meet it, felt like it was drilling into me, seeing through me. His eyes were like polished stones, reflecting nothing, yet holding an infinite depth of emptiness. I'd quickly look away, my heart pounding. I began to sense the lingering despair of the day's shoppers, a residue of rushed meals, forgotten dreams, quiet anxieties. It clung to the air, a faint metallic tang I hadn't noticed before. It felt like **he* was feeding on it. I tried asking the morning crew if anyone knew him. The guy in the corner booth, they just shrugged. Never seen him order anything, just sits. Their casual dismissal only fueled my unease. Nobody else seemed to care. One night, I deliberately left a small pile of crumbs on his table. The next morning, they were gone, not wiped away, but simply gone. The table spotless. My hands trembled as I realized it wasn't just my imagination. I started timing him. He'd appear exactly at 11:03 p.m. every single night, and he'd be gone by 5:47 a.m. just before the first employees arrived, like clockwork, a ghost with a schedule haunting my nights. My sleep suffered. I'd lie awake, replaying the silent encounters, the unnerving stillness. The dark corners of my apartment seemed to hold his vacant gaze. I felt a constant, gnawing dread even off the clock. I began to notice subtle changes in his appearance. His clothes, initially neat, seemed to fray slightly, almost imperceptibly. His face, always shadowed, seemed to sink, becoming gaunter, yet he never moved. One night, I accidentally dropped my dustpan near his booth. It clattered loudly. He didn't flinch, not a muscle. It was less human than a mannequin. That's when true fear began to set in. This wasn't right. I tried to talk to him once. "Excuse me, sir, the food court is closed." My voice cracked. He didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge my presence, just sat, a silent monument to dread. I backed away slowly. The feeling of being watched intensified. It felt like his gaze was a physical weight, pressing down on me, suffocating me. Even when his back was turned, I felt his eyes on the back of my neck. I was trapped. I began to hear faint whispers just at the edge of my hearing, like 1,000 voices murmuring indecipherably, always originating from his general direction. It was enough to make my skin crawl. What was happening? I started bringing a small flashlight, even though the lights were on. I'd scan the empty tables, trying to reassure myself. But the darkness always seemed to pool around his booth, swallowing any light I directed there. My manager, Mr. Henderson, noticed my exhaustion. "Everything all right, Alex? You look like you've seen a ghost." I just forced a smile. How could I explain? He wouldn't believe me. Nobody would. The despair I sensed grew stronger. It wasn't just a feeling anymore, it was an atmosphere. The air felt thick with residual sadness, disappointment, and quiet desperation. It clung to the vinyl seats, the plastic tables. He was drawing it in. I tried to vary my cleaning routine, hoping to break the pattern, to throw him off, but it was useless. He was always there, an unmovable, unblinking sentinel, regardless of what I did. My actions meant nothing to him. One night, a single, perfectly round tear appeared on the vinyl of the booth seat opposite him. It wasn't vandalism, it was too precise. It felt like a wound, a silent scream of the space. My blood ran cold. I started seeing him in my peripheral vision even when he wasn't there. A flicker of movement in the corner of my eye, a dark shape. I'd spin around only to find empty space. My sanity was fraying. The whispers intensified, becoming clearer, though still indecipherable. Sometimes I thought I heard my own name, distorted and drawn out. It was a chorus of lost souls echoing through the cavernous food court. I began to suspect he wasn't simply sitting there. It felt more like he was anchored, a root growing into the very fabric of the food court, a part of the structure yet horrifyingly alive, an integral, malevolent part. My reflection in the polished chrome surfaces of the food court started looking different. Gaunt, wild-eyed, a stranger. The stress was taking its toll. I was losing myself to this silent horror. This happened to me. One night I found a single withered rose petal on his table, dry, brittle, like it had been there for decades. Where did it come from? There were no flowers in Costco. It felt like a morbid offering. The cold around his booth wasn't just a physical sensation anymore. It was an emotional coldness, a profound emptiness that seeped into my bones, stealing my warmth, my hope. It was consuming me from the inside out. I tried to barricade his booth with chairs once, a desperate, futile attempt to create a barrier. When I returned after my break, the chairs were neatly stacked against the wall. He was still there, unmoved, a silent rebuke. The despair he harvested seemed to coalesce. I began to see faint, shimmering heat haze-like distortions in the air around him, almost like a silent, invisible fire. He was consuming something, and it was visible. His eyes, previously vacant, now held a faint, almost imperceptible glow, a dark, hungry light. It wasn't reflecting anything, it was emanating from within. He was waking up, and I was the only one here. I started seeing faint outlines of faces in the shadows around him, distorted, fleeting images of sad, tired people, the faces of countless shoppers, their lingering emotions now manifesting. He was collecting them. The whispers were now coherent, though still faint. Words like lost, empty, alone. They were the collective thoughts of despair amplified. I felt them resonating within me, threatening to overwhelm my own mind. One night I saw his hand move, just a finger ever so slightly tapping the table. It was the first movement I'd ever witnessed, a tiny, terrifying gesture that shattered his perfect stillness. He was aware. He was watching me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was growing stronger. The air around him crackled with a silent energy. My own energy felt drained, leaving me constantly exhausted, hollowed out. He was feeding and I was diminishing. My cleaning supplies started to disappear. Mop heads, cleaning sprays, not stolen, just gone. Then I'd find them later, neatly placed on his asterisk table, often arranged in a disturbing, symbolic pattern. He was playing with me. I tried to call in sick just once, but an overwhelming compulsion, a dread of what would happen if I wasn't there, forced me back. It felt like I was tethered, unable to escape his silent pull. I was his now. The silence in the food court was no longer empty. It was filled with his silent presence, a suffocating weight. Every creak of the building, every hum of the refrigerator seemed to echo his unblinking stare. I was alone with him. He shifted, not a big movement, but a slight tilt of his head, just enough to catch the light differently. His eyes, now glowing more intensely, seemed to be directly on me, assessing. My heart hammered against my ribs. The air grew impossibly cold. My breath plumed. Frost began to form on the edges of the tables closest to him, a tangible manifestation of his unnatural presence. The food court was transforming into his domain. The whispers weren't just around me now, they were inside my head. Accusations, fears, regrets, my own deepest anxieties, amplified and distorted. He was invading my mind, consuming my inner self. I was breaking. His form seemed to waver, to shimmer at the edges, not quite solid, not quite defined. A creature of shadow and despair, barely holding human form. The illusion was finally dropping. I saw his true nature. He stood, slowly, deliberately. The scrape of the booth seat against the floor was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. His posture was stiff, unnatural, like a marionette being pulled by unseen strings. He was coming for me. His eyes, now fully glowing, locked onto mine. There was no vacantness, only a profound, ancient hunger, a bottomless pit of desire for despair. I was no longer just cleaning, I was his next meal. I knew it. He took a step, then another. His movements were jerky, yet terrifyingly purposeful. Each step echoed in the vast, empty food court, closing the distance between us. My legs wouldn't move. I was paralyzed by fear. The whispers became a roar in my head, a cacophony of despair, my own fears amplified 1,000-fold. I felt my sanity slipping, my identity dissolving under the onslaught of his influence. He was consuming my mind. He reached me, his hand, cold and skeletal, touched my face. The touch was like ice, burning, stealing the last vestiges of my warmth, my life. I felt myself fading, becoming another whisper in the food court's silence. I'll never forget that night. I am still here. My body is still here, cleaning, but my mind, my spirit, my despair, they are his. I am just another silent diner, watching, waiting for the next cleaner to arrive, forever. The hum of the refrigerators, the echoes of the day's consumer frenzy, and the oppressive silence of the silent diner. I am part of it now. I am the Costco food court's permanent, silent meal, and the cycle continues endlessly.